Hey YouTube! I got a free copy of iSyn Poly for iPad thanks to the guys over at Touch Sound Podcast. And I wanted to do a review for you guys as I absolutely love getting a new synthesizer and just digging into it. And figure I'll put up a review here and maybe when I grow up I can be like Nick over at SonicState.com.
Among synthesists, a great war is waged for ages. Which is better, hardware or software synthesis? The hardware is tactile, but a pain in the ass to program, and the software, while easier to program, requires a lot of MIDI routing in order to get it to being even half as tactile as hardware. And I sincerely believe that plugging a $50 keyboard into an iPad with an app like iSyn Poly, you get the best of both worlds. As you see here, we've got 3 oscillators, which is vastly more than the 2 that is kind of standard right now. So you hear how fat this sound gets with 3 oscillators mixed in here. Listen to that. That is so much fun. And it gives you so many design options. It's also got an XY controller that is assignable, as well as a mod wheel, and you can change the depth of the modulation. And a really clever touch is if you double click on the keyboard, you get a bigger keyboard for fat fingers. And as you see there, if you drag around, you get a pitch bend effect, and you can modulate the amount of that using this. But unfortunately, the label for everything that you're doing is on the bottom of the knob, and that is obscured by your fingers. You got to kind of do this weird sort of angle thing to see what the hell you're doing. This has also got a pretty neat filter in here that's got its own drive for what the manual refers to as soft distortion. The amp has its own drive with an asymmetry knob that creates a tone to the distortion that the drive is introducing. As well as a bit crusher. Which is good. It's really nice that they've added all of these various design options into the the meat and potatoes here, because the effect, as you see here, we've got an effect unit, is global. So you see I got it set to flanger here. It's flanger on mono 2, it's flanger on poly, and it's even on the drums. Now fortunately, each also has an FX level adjuster here, but you can't put any reverb on anything without, completely neglecting all the other possible effects things you might want to do. And you can double tap on any knob to reset it to its original value. It's also got a pretty cool ARP with lots of features. And the tempo for the entire sequencer is controlled by the tempo here, which is in the same position on all of the synths. I don't know why it's there, but that's where it is, as well as the swing. Each part has a mute button, but it doesn't seem to do anything. What the hell? Maybe that's just a 1.0 bug. If you're the kind of guy that sticks to just the presets, you're going to be sorely disappointed, as the offerings here are fairly limited. I'll just do a random sampling here. And unfortunately, that's pretty typical of all of these. Trance dance. Meh. Alright, that's a little fun. But as you see now, I've encountered a bug that I keep encountering. That key was stuck. And it seems to happen whenever I'm using the XY pad controller. It has also happened when I'm using a MIDI controller as well, and you have to hit it again to make it stop doing that. That, among a single solitary crash, has given me some doubt about its use in any sort of live environment. But again, this is 1.0, and I think I have to mention that I've jailbroken my device in order to record the screen, so that might be causing some amount of instability. I'm just putting it out there. Over on the drums, you're entirely limited to the presets here. You get your basic kits going all the way up to rock. It does fortunately offer a lot of design options here in the pitch and decay. I found the modular to be particularly amusing. The drums also have an XY pad controller. Oh, and everything also has a tilt controller, but I haven't played with that. I'm not getting crazy keytarred with my iPad. Over to the sequencer, you get this. And at first, it's going to seem just completely weird, especially when you're trying to like copy and paste and stuff. Because normally when you're using a mouse, at least I do, I'm left-handed, maybe I'm doing it wrong, but I try to do this left to right thing to select, and as you see, that's creating a note. I didn't want that. So in order to select anything, you've got to go right to left, and then you get this, which you can cut or copy or... Oh, shit. This is a good example of how this can get a little frustrating here. You can do all kinds of zooming, but that's not helping too much. Alright, so if you drag the blue, you can start to scale things around. That's kind of interesting. Although, I note that it's not... Oh, okay, yeah, I guess it is affecting that second note. But, yeah, it can be a bit frustrating to work with. For fuck's sakes. And there's no delete, so if you're trying to cut something and then you want to paste it somewhere else, but there's something else already there. Like, let's say I wanted to move those two notes over to these. Jesus Christ. You've seriously got to be fucking kidding me here. Oh my god. I can't get it to select these notes here. I'm just going to have to play yakety sax over this whole section here. Alright, fuck it. I guess those notes are staying. But in order to paste things, you've got to select the position you want it to be in with the... Oh, dear God, don't fuck with me now. You've got to select where you want it to be pasted into with the play needle. And that requires a long press. And then you get the paste option. But, oh dear God, now it's not going to let me get rid of that, is it? You know what? That's a blank spot anyhow. It doesn't matter. I just double checked, and none of the drum kits are using that top lane for any of the pads, so I guess it doesn't matter that there's just notes kind of scattered over there. Maybe that's exactly why there is no pad on that position. You can tell a lot of thought has been put into trying to squeeze a lot of great functionality into here without hiding it under a whole bunch of nested menus and sub-menus and all this. But this leads to some really weird workflows. Let me give you an example. The sequences of the patterns are determined by their position in this menu here. As you see, sequence 2 here is now in front of sequence 1. Wisely, they've also included an undo button, which is great, just absolutely great. Just be careful with it, because I've actually undoed to the point that I lost a pattern and there's no redo. Which reminds me, you should save and save often. Hitting the song button here brings up the automatic, hey, do you want to save this? Songs are listed in here. Despite my troubles in navigating it, it starts to make some amount of sense, but I've become kind of annoyed by the way that it groups everything together into a pattern. There's no pattern for drums and pattern for synth 1 and pattern for synth 2. Everything is on one pattern. So, for instance, when I'd gotten myself together a nice patch and I got my drums going and I'm ready to jam, I set it to record, and it just kept on looping in the same pattern. There was no way to record my synth playing across multiple drum patterns. And the workaround on their website was to edit a sequence here to having more length to it, but then you've got to go through the process of copying and pasting your drum arrangement throughout the now elongated pattern, which, as you see, can be kind of a pain in the ass. That's probably close enough, but fortunately there is a quantize function that gives you all kinds of great options here. At the bottom of the screen, you'll see we've also got 5 lanes of automation, and these are actually pretty impressive when you're trying to draw along. You can get crazy with it. Oh, that's right. You can only do that within a single pattern, so I was trying to drag across multiple patterns. But you can also get kind of fine-tuned with it. You see here, trying to make valleys and peaks here. This is a really ambitious app, so I'll give it a lot of credit for the parts that it's getting right. It is a lot of fun to play if you can avoid dealing with the sequencer. The XY pad control makes it very dynamic to play, since all of the parameters can be assigned to it. People prepared to design their own patches for really fat sounds that require 3 oscillators will find a lot of value in this, but everybody else should probably take a pass. I hope you liked this review, and if you'd like to see more, get more people to give me promo codes.